I honestly need to not be tempted to just pump myself full of coffee before a video, like, I have to stay hydrated and not caffeinated. Anyway, hello, I am back actually in London this is now my like video space. I changed everything because I have a bookshelf. Here is the preview of the video. The preview of the video I know you'll really want. Is that coming? Maybe. But in the meantime, I thought I would satiate, is that the word? Your need and desire for book content, because the amount of like messages I've had from you guys being like, books, 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 books though, books. I'm like, okay, fine, have the books. I clearly don't need caffeine. Okay, anyway, hello, welcome to a mini book haul slash things I read. If you're new, hello, my name is Emma. I'm a complete grad and I am dyslexic. I can never read like fast enough to do like an enormous, I don't know what I read this summer once. I'll put it there for you. I just can't physically read enough to like warrant a video like that. Can't do an entire video on like 3 books. So I will just split this between what I've bought recently since finishing my degree and what I've actually read. The big thing for me has been obviously now that I've graduated and with what I'm doing next, I'm doing film school next. So I can read whatever the hell I want now. It's quite exciting. Most of these books have all been for my degree. Some of them might not be read. Some of them I bought with every intention to read. Don't we all? I have a 34-30 list and one of the things is to read all the books I own. So I've like read bits of most of them. Bought more books, hang on. These are the things that I have bought but not read. This is quite blatantly the pile of books that I have read because I destroy my books in the process, and if that gives you anxiety, never read a book that I have read because that's not in focus. I write all over them. This is not a good example because I didn't enjoy it, and I'll get to that. This is a good example though. You're either in awe or aghast at what you've just seen. If you would like to improve your annotating skills, I do have a video on this, which is surprisingly popular. Like, I made that because I thought like 3 people would watch it and appreciate it, but apparently a few of you have, so that's good. So I bought not that many. I'm doing quite well on like restraining myself because I know that I do have so many books that I could be reading. In no particular order, I definitely have spoken about this book before. I've spoken about it in one of my vlogs. So I bought Yates. Like I've said like a million times, I don't have a great relationship with American literature. I've been trying, as you'll see. Didn't go very well. So I bought Yates, A Good School. A lot of you will know, but if you didn't, I went to boarding school, so any like private school, like boarding school stuff, sort of just, I don't know, I feel like in part I'm hoping for some kind of like teenage nostalgia, but at the same time I'm like, how accurate is this, and like how much is this kind of like my experience and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, so I love it. I should do a video where I review boarding school films. I think that would be quite a lot of fun. William Grove is a nervous teenager trying to fit in his new boarding school. It's short, so I don't need to commit to it for that long. Okay, I'm always going to comment on the fonts and stuff. I like the vintage books because they always do very well on like font spacing, and like my dyslexic brain can actually read it. That is actually one of the reasons that I prefer buying Oxford World Classics. If you're dyslexic and you have a choice, I would recommend these highly. The paratext, first of all, is fucking fantastic with all of these books. You know, you can actually read it. Highly recommend these. Vintage ones are good. Penguin Classics, less so, so I tend not to buy them. If I can find a different edition, I keep doing this. I'm excited to read this, but it's always from boys' perspective, so I'm like, I bought philosophy because for some reason I want to melt my brain even more than normal. This is for philosophy. I have some Montaigne, but does Montaigne count as philosophy? Also, if you buy Montaigne, just buy the entire collected essays. Don't bother with all the short ones. Just take the plunge, buy the whole thing, and it'll stare at you for the next 20 years of your life. Because that's how long it's going to take. I did say this in a vlog. I'm going to really butcher this and you're going to hate me. Chuang Tzu. It's my white girl show even more than usual. Wow. The reason I bought some like Eastern philosophy is the fact that like, I think my complete degree really failed us. The fact that the furthest east we went is India, and then we did India still from like a very British post-colonial perspective. We did Gandhi and stuff. It's not what I wanted entirely from like that side of the map, you know? I'm like, it was a very Eurocentric degree, which I mean was okay in a way that I never felt too out of my depth, but then at the same time, you know, you're at university, you kind of want to be forced further afield, especially in like a learning environment, and everything we did still was like, even Africa was still like post-colonial, it's still like through like, you know, white eyes. People do want to see a video about my degree, and I think that is probably actually my main complaint academic wise, was that we just didn't go far enough afield. So I'm, you know, looking for it myself. I think it's interesting considering I've read so much like Western philosophy, like how this would be different and the same. I have no idea, so I feel like I would like to have some kind of idea. If you guys have any recommendations, I would highly appreciate them, because I am definitely out of my depth here. Anything that you guys have to contribute, I would really appreciate. Next, I put these ones in. So basically, okay, here's the other thing. My favourite bookshop in all of London is Dawn Books. It's on Marylebone High Street. I will link it down below. So if you guys are ever like in town, you go have a look. I love the way they organise their books, because they do it by country. So if I'm like, oh, I'm feeling French, I can fuck off to the French section and find whatever my little heart desires. Highly recommend. But there was also, I went to Notting Hill recently, and there was a bookshop there that was also just beautiful. I like little independent bookshops. You tell me off when I buy books on Amazon. So that's the thing, is like, because I don't now need to look for like specific editions for class and stuff, I'm just gonna wander into as many independent bookshops as I can and enjoy my life. I can't remember what the bookshop was called, so I will link that one for you as well. It was nice to like go downstairs and it's like the room of books. I shouldn't just be so excited about like just walls of like books, because I'm creating my own walls of books. There's an entire other shelf above that you guys can't see that I filled. So I bought Gulliver's Travels. I feel like I've neglected English lit very— oh no, this font is tiny! You see what I mean by this? This is my problem with like Penguin Classics. They do like to cram a hell of a lot of words on one page, and I don't like the fonts they use. Like, would it really be so hard for printers to just, you know, if you're not dyslexic, it doesn't make a difference, but if you are dyslexic, it does. Can you please pander to the lowest common denominator? Us. Would that be so hard? These are the kind of books that I would like to give, like, if I had like a teenage son, when they're like 14 or 15, be like, here is like Marco Polo, here is stuff like— but I just think I need to read more like adventure stuff. I, however, did not, like, you all know that I love Roxanne to absolute pieces, like I love Defoe, but I just cannot— Robinson Crusoe is just so shit. It's so boring, and I'm just like, I want this to be more interesting, and I feel like I know the story, but I've never actually read it. The same with the Odyssey, like I know the story, but I've actually never read it. So let's go on an adventure and actually read what I feel like I'm supposed to. I feel like I am buying books because I feel like I am supposed to have read them. But you gathered a complete degree for this exact reason, because like I can read these books whenever I want. Like there was so much stuff my complete degree exposed me to that I would never have picked up naturally. So, you know, gotta be open-minded. Speaking of— so, I bought a book called Fanny Hill, or Memoirs of a Woman of Pleasure. For those of you who don't know, I wrote my dissertation on slightly more risque women, let's say. This is basically— I feel like this— one of the cheekier things that you can get in print written from English literature. Like the French, they're a little bit more out there. This is what that other company, other independent bookshop was called. I'm not gonna read out loud because my dyslexic arse can't pronounce these things. Anyway, so again with the fonts. Oh my god. I do genuinely have a point. I don't know what you're reading. Remember that like bit of sad that I accidentally put up and then some of you paused it and read it and kind of traumatized? I apologize about that. I shouldn't have known better. So I'm just gonna do this again to you. Do you see my point with the fonts? I'm very close up and I'm doing the viewfinder thing. I'm really sorry. See, I know that all of the English people watching this are gonna be like sniggering because like, haha, Fanny. Okay, to my American viewers, Fanny is another like word for vagina in English. That's why like whenever I hear Americans go, oh, fanny pack, I just think it's quite funny. I'm a child. So obviously when I was doing SAD and stuff, this did come up a lot when people try to compare like, you know, French and English novels. But then again, I'm surprised that in English there isn't more like really like out there stuff. Because England didn't have the same like ancien regime that the French did. Like I'm really surprised that there isn't more like naughty stuff from English literature, whereas like in French there's quite a bit. I don't know, maybe it's because they censored it so aggressively that like that was a reaction that you would then just write more naughty— I have to stop saying naughty, cheeky, explicit, that's the word I wanted, stuff. Anyway, I'm really curious to read this just to see how it differs from like the stuff I have read, because I've read SAD, you can't shock me at this point. Like, I'm not being funny, but you read that and I'm like, okay, am I traumatized or now numbed to the world? I can't unread certain things. I'm just really curious. Forced by the death of her parents to seek her fortune in London, Fanny Hill is duped into prostitution by an aged procuress. In Mrs. Brown's bawdy house, the naive young girl begins her sexual initiation. I convinced someone to buy Henry Miller the other day as well. I just don't think they know what they've gotten themselves in for. Oh, and I bought An American Marriage. I generally don't buy things that have been written this century, but this is something that I remember seeing. I think it was probably Vogue, but I mean, if Barack Obama said it was good, it probably is good. I will say again, like, my problem with American literature is I'm reading the wrong time periods. I feel like I'm trying to read the time periods that I love in European literature, but then not being disappointed that I don't get the same thing from American literature that I get from the European stuff. Clearly, I just need to read different time periods. So again, what are your favourite American novels? If any of you say Of Mice and Men and To Kill a Mockingbird, every person who did GCSE English in this country will probably throw a hissy fit, myself included. So I'm curious about this. I probably won't take me that long to read either. That's the other thing, is like, I'm dyslexic, but I like to read the hardest English I can, apparently. So I'd like to see something a bit more. I never read anything like this, so let's have a look if it's good. I hope so. I think it should be good. Anyway, okay, this is what I managed to read all summer. And a half. I haven't finished this yet, but I'm really enjoying it. Let's start with this. I am like a good chunk into Brideshead Revisited. I am really enjoying this. I'm probably gonna get judged by a couple of you for it because yeah, it is very, you know, the most nostalgic. I have a thing for nostalgia. I've been made really aware of this recently. The Oxford novel. I'm happy I never applied to Oxford. We know I applied to Cambridge and got rejected. That was fun. But I never did for my undergrad, so I feel like I can read all the Oxford stuff and like, rather than being like, oh, I didn't get in, I can be more like, oh, this reminds me of school. So it's quite funny in that way. Also, you all know that I love the name Sebastian. My fucking cactus Sebastian is like this now, and I don't know what I've done. Also, this font is a good font, and I was worried because it was 400 pages, but then the font's really big, so it's fine. Yeah, these things matter. People, I'm sure you're thinking, this is why does she keep talking about this? But when you're dyslexic, this is some of the things I incorporate into my decision about why I do and do not buy a book. If font is too small and whatever, I don't care, I'm not gonna buy that edition. So, you printers, pay attention. I feel like this book is like it is, you know, classic nostalgia, and I really want to watch. I know there's a film and I know there is a TV series, so I do really want to watch that. And I mean, you guys know that I'm a sucker for big country houses and stuff like that. Right, I know exactly what this is, and this is quite wanky, but I'm going to share this with you anyway. It's peak wank, and it is to rub in someone else's face, so this isn't a me present, this is a haha suck it present. Because if you didn't know, I now live with my older brother. Thanks, Mum and Dad. I thought I was your favourite child, but whatever. If you haven't watched my videos regularly, you really are going to think I'm a massive wanker. But I'm now going to very gleefully drink this, mainly in front of my dad and older brother. Anyway. Where was I? What was I talking about? I fucking love Brideshead Revisited. I think it reminds me a lot of school. It's very calming to read. I feel really weirdly at ease. It is very like, I feel like what a lot of Americans would consider quintessentially British. So it is this kind of like, almost imaginary like realm of Britishness that just does not exist anymore. But I feel like a lot of people wouldn't enjoy it. Or maybe they just wouldn't get it. I don't know, it's very indulgent. And anyway, oh my god, let's talk about this. I am so angry with you all. When I asked you which one do I read, that one or this one, and you told me to read this one. Guys, what the fuck? What do you see in this book? What does anybody see in this book? This is, okay, this is Henry James, the American. This, I thought, was so fucking boring. It was 400 pages of, I am bored, can I stop reading this? But I was just kept like holding on. But then by the point that I really just wanted to quit, I was 200 pages in, and I just was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna finish reading it. And I regret that decision, and I'm never gonna get that time of my life back. Wow, I very rarely hate books, but this was so fucking boring. It was so boring. Mum's always like, oh yeah, no, Henry James is tricky, but I'm like, yeah, it's tricky, but it's also dull. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. nothing happens. Literally nothing happens. Literally nothing happens. And also when you involve convents and it's not saucy in any way, you're going to lose my interest because nothing fucking happens. It's just very disappointing. Something that was not disappointing, which my mum actually started reading, is Castle Rackrent by Marie Edgeworth. This is, I have another one of her books. Do I have other Edgeworth? I do, Belinda. I wrote about that for my PI that I had to do and I never read the entire thing, so maybe I should, but this was really, really, really good. It's like a character, well, it's not really, well, it is a character of like the last 4 heirs of Castle Rackrent. It's like 100 pages. This is just very, very fun though. It's just non-stop enjoyable and like gossipy family drama, like wealth and the inheritance and like the castle and all that kind of stuff, and it's just very, very, very fun. It's about the destruction of a fortune and stuff like that, and just like whenever there's a fortune involved, you have my attention because that can only end badly, and it only ever does. During the 1970s, with Ireland in political crisis, Maria Edgeworth makes her surprisingly rebellious choice in Castle Rackrent. This is very funny, and I very highly recommend it. It will take most of you like a day. It took me 3 days. It's like 100 pages and the font is like enormous. It's the kind of thing that I actually would love to just spin like a short TV series from. Okay, there's not much like emotional complexity or anything like that. It is just like XYZ happens and it's funny. So really enjoyable if you just want something, not like, I was gonna say something mind-numbing, something that doesn't require that much attention, but you will just go through and really enjoy and have a great time reading. Highly recommend it. We love the 18th century, and the, you know, the relationship between the English and the Irish at this point is also quite interesting, so recommend. This, I finally read it. I finally read Calvino, If on a Winter's Night a Traveller. This was fucking fantastic. I am so happy I read this. My brother even read it. My mum read it God knows how many years ago. But my brother actually quote unquote said it was the most, in the time it's taken me to read these 4 books, 3.5, my brother read about 15 books, so for contrast. And my mum as well probably read about 15 as well. I actually think my brother did read 15 books though, like I'm not even joking, like why did I get the slow gene? But he said it was the most interesting thing he'd read all summer. I was very like, haha, I have good taste in books. It's so much fun. This is so playful and you just get sort of sucked into it and you just can't, I couldn't put it down. I mean, when I was reading it, I couldn't put it down, but when I put it down, I wouldn't pick it up for a few days. But that's just me as a person. This was so, so good. It's just, if you have read a lot and you have a lot of experience with like, if you have a lot of experience with literature, this is great because I haven't read anything like it. It's just so, it wakes you up, it keeps you interested, and it's very like fresh each time. Let's say without giving too many spoilers. You go into a bookshop and buy If on a Winter's Night a Traveller by Italo Calvino. You like it, but there is a printer's error in your copy. You take it back to the shop and get a replacement. This is so much fun. I honestly, like, I just can't tell you enough how much fun it is. And it is absolutely a worthy use of your time and a really interesting way to look at literature. Highly, highly recommend. It was so much fun. And I enjoyed every second of reading this, which was great after I'd read Henry James and wanted to shoot myself because I was that bored. You don't understand how much energy it takes for me as a person to read unless you're dyslexic, so it was such a waste. This was great though. This more than made up for it. And I really like this structure as well because it's like almost book, novel, book, novel, book, novel. So yeah, structurally, it's also really interesting. Highly, 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 highly recommend. Very, very good. Which one will I read next? I'll probably read this next, to be honest. But we know that I'm buying things and I'm probably gonna read it 5 years from now. But I will read it eventually, if I don't buy more books in the process, which I still probably will do. I was thinking more and more recently, I really want, like, in my house when I'm older, if I have a spare room, I'd love like a smaller room and I would do the entire wall of just like bookshelves. And then I would have like, I would make that snug and I'd want like one big window with like a window box, window seat. I hope you guys got what you wanted. You wanted books. I hope it didn't disappoint. I always feel like I'm like not sufficient at talking about books or about films. Oh, a couple of you asked if I could do more videos about films. I recently rebooted my blog. I have a website. It is literally sarcasticfish.com and I've been writing mainly about like all of the films that I've been watching. So basically I'm just putting up the list of what I want to watch and then what I have watched and trailers and like my thoughts and stuff. If you guys would like that, I will of course link it below. There we go. That is the video. You got your books. Goodreads, obviously, link below. as you would expect. Like I have said, I am at your video making disposal. Tweet me, Instagram me, comment, let me just know what you want. I'll see what I can do. Like, subscribe and all my jazz. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Okay, bye. I'm reading the that tonight, but you go into... I should do.